We are up and recording.
Okay. Um, how about Anthony's here? Anthony, do you feel like, well, if you can post that email? Uh,
Eh,
Give me just 1 second, please.
okay.
I'm so sorry.
Take your time. We are not in any hurry here. We got 700 years to kill.
Welcome back, Jeff. Hope you had a good trip.
Yeah, yeah, it was quite nice. Very nice. I saw some of those people. I saw Marta. I stayed with Marta. I stayed with Diane and Terry. Um, and I saw many dear old Baba people that I may not see again in this lifetime.
is Martha really the gal she's cracked up to be?
You know, uh, that house that you see behind you is a bar around the corner, and there's dancing that goes on. It's a little loud, wild.
Richard, you're a stinker.
And we're ready to rock and roll if you are.
Okay.
Okay, let me share this.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Topic: explaining Baba to others, a challenge. Dear folks of Baba, we all have been faced at some point with trying to explain who Baba is to those who haven't heard of him. And we have also had to face being around family, neighbors, or people at work who disapprove of our life with Baba. These two situations are often challenging in their own way. How do you deal with these? In the first situation, do you say directly who Baba says he is, or do you skirt around the issue by referring to Baba as a spiritual master from India, or deflect the question by talking about his teachings instead? Do you have a usual way of introducing Baba, or do you often have to use your intuition each time in assessing the situation? Baba has said, quote, your job is to bring my name to the ear of a person, and my job is to bring it from ear to heart, end quote. You may feel relieved that he has discouraged proselytizing, which often puts people off. I've heard a wide range of approaches to sharing Baba, and they are all valid. I've never heard a fellow Baba lover say, mind your own business, when that is exactly what one might fantasize sometimes. Just joking. Explaining Baba to others can definitely be a challenge, and there's a natural fear of being rejected or even scorned. In the second situation, it can be difficult and even alienating when family or colleagues or people in our neighborhood express their outright disapproval for following Baba. How can we explain that we had no choice? It was our destiny. In some cases, the Baba lover sometimes becomes an outcast, the black sheep of the family, and is never really accepted. This can definitely be very hurtful and even lonely sometimes, especially when there are no Baba lovers where one lives. Some have chosen to go completely within in their life with Baba to avoid being hurt or disapproved of. Others have joined meditation and religious groups, spiritual centers, and yoga classes to find like minded people. For many, joining Zoom meetings has been a godsend for those who find themselves cut off from family and friends. Have you had to deal with such circumstances? What have you done? I think it would be informative and to hear what others have done. Some of their methods might be applicable to your own situation. In his love, with the help of friends, Jeff.
Okay, someone's rattling something around.
Everybody, yeah.
Okay. Hey, so this kind of topic came up when Diane and I she was driving me to the airport from LA, and and this it's always kind of a very difficult question to answer, who is Mayor Baba, and it can be awkward, and you can feel your answer is very inadequate, especially among friends and family. But you know, back in 1960, Baba, there was a tourist fair in Mumbai, and they had a booth called "Who is Mayor Baba?" And they didn't know quite how to answer that, so they actually came all the way to Mirzad and asked Baba, "What should we say when someone says this to us? Ask who you are." And Baba said, "Say this: He is the essence of your very being, which provokes you to ask this question." And I've tried that, but it doesn't quite work for me. But if you have a booth at a large fair, that seems more appropriate to that environment. But and just to mention that Francis Brabazon, when a Baba's Mandali, when they asked him in Australia how they should convey Baba to others, he said, first become friends and get to know them, and then tell them about Baba. So those are a couple of reflections. But anyway, have we got anybody that wants to venture out and tell us your experience with this? Yeah.
Anthony is diving right in.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
I'm jumping in just because with reading it, it was such a nice experience reading that. I was just getting these like visuals of Jeff being in these various situations because you wrote it out so nicely. I was like, wow, I'm sure you've been in quite a few of
Yeah.
these to have thought of all those things. And then naturally, I was just thinking the situations I had been in, and oh my God, there's so much to say about this. I just kind of don't want to go on forever and bore everyone. But oh man, it's just a huge topic. I don't know. I feel like I've been through a lot of different phases with it. Like you try to be one way and you run into different reactions from people. And, I think I told more people in the beginning and just saw that the enthusiasm that I had wasn't necessarily the enthusiasm everybody else was going to have with hearing about it. Um, so, I have, I don't know. I have a little bit of a complex of proselytizing. When I was in college, the Hare Krishnas would always come up to me with the Bhagavad Gita and try to like convert me, and I'd run away from them. And it was funny because years later, I ended up learning kirtan from them and kind of fell in love with them. But anyways, I know what that feeling is like when people are putting something on you that you're not really too down with. So I kind of pulled back in the opposite direction for a while where I wasn't telling anybody and was just like, yeah, if they come to me, then I'll say something, but I'm not going to approach anyone on my own about it because I've just gotten such weird reactions. And some of them kind of hurt, especially when it's people you thought would have responded better to it. There's a dear man in the Hare Krishna movement who's a monk. I mean, I just love this guy to death. He was an African American man, just a wonderful human being that went through real trauma growing up. And in the 70s, he realized who Krishna was, and he started chanting. He started taking Krishna's name, and over a series of decades, he eventually became a monk and gave everything up. And he wakes up at 3 a.m. to start his spiritual practices and has this like 3-4 hour morning routine, and me and him are really close, and he was kind of like a spiritual father to me. And so, one day I kind of started talking to him about Baba, and I was like, "Oh, if anyone is gonna get it, like he's gonna get it." And he just gave me this blank stare that, like, I thought this other person was God, and like the only God in human form is Krishna. And how could he didn't say this to me, but just the look on his face is this baffled, like, you really think that? And I just backed off of the topic and was just like, there's no reason to go there. I think he's doing fine in his relationship with Krishna. And um God, and then I've had these other experiences, and I want to be careful not to say this the wrong way, and this is really, really deep for me. I had this false belief that if you were into Baba and really understood Baba, then you were just like at a deeper point on your spiritual path, that like you recognize the current avatar, and you're automatically in this deeper place. And my God, Baba just showed me that that was not the right way to see things. Some people, a certain person in particular that I really respected, who's an incredibly deep Baba lover, I ended up finding out some really bad stuff about, and I just had no idea. I was like, oh my God. And so, after I went through that experience, it just totally uprooted this belief that automatically, if you're a deep Baba lover and you understand like so many things about all the Baba books, and you have this crazy deep devotion, that automatically that's the way to go. And I don't know, the way I look at it these days, I don't know. Baba had said this thing: there are many who love me and don't know of me. So now I don't know. I feel like if you're a deep, sincere person with real love in your life, to me, that's Baba now. And it doesn't even matter if you recognize him or the current Advent or any of that. If you're Christian and you're living that authentic place from love, if you're Hare Krishna, whatever, that's what really matters, is that you're living honesty and truth. So anyways, that was a
Yeah.
mouthful. I guess what I'm getting at is, since I now feel like that's the real truth, I don't feel this itch to like even tell people about it anymore. I just feel like if you're trying to be a loving, real, authentic person and remember God, and to me, that's Baba now. So I kind of just leave everybody to do their thing. And I don't know, I've lost a lot of the desire to try to like officially tell people about Baba unless they come to me. So, anyways, that was a
Yeah.
lot, but I had to get that.
Yeah. No, excellent. You covered a lot of stuff that we all have had to deal with. Beautifully said.
We have a Colorado contingent here.
Oh,
Let's stop with Mr. Sandu.
Well, the first thing I developed was the sympathy limp. And so I would limp around Target or Kmart, or maybe, Sam's Club, and almost fall down. And then I would tell them that God saved me, and that didn't work. So then the second thing I worked on really hard was, and it works quite effectively, but it's very risky. That's the baseball bat method. You will believe in Meher Baba. And then the third thing I worked on was, the big stoplight where you carry the big sign, Meher Baba is the avatar. And I never got any takers on that. So I gave up, like Anthony. I just did, I guess this is not my business. This is just not my business. I can't get it done. And so slowly over time, all it amounts to for me really is, if people are friendly enough, or if I'm having an engaging conversation, if they raise the level of conversation to anything personal or psychological, then I will eventually get there, and I will try to just mention Meher Baba's name. But the only problem with that is I have to explain why. And the why part is the part you have to be careful with. And it's because at the bottom line is most people, I never thought about what is my consciousness, what is consciousness? I never thought about that when I was a young kid. I was just, looking for something. But I don't think people often think even of that. Where did consciousness come from? So anyway, yeah, I retired my baseball bat. That's the end of my story. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Matthews, third base. Okay.
Mr. Yeager.
Yes, thank you. Well, the day after I got your email, Jeff, I had an interesting experience. There's a little cottage in the back of my house on the alley. It's a separate little house that I just use as a guest cottage for the most part. And it needs new windows. And I made an appointment with an outfit to come and give me a bid to replace these windows. And I wasn't really thinking about Baba at the time, but I took the guy back there into the house, and there happens to be back there this picture of Baba.
Yeah.
That was Irene Holt gave it to Nancy Bohm, a dear old pal of mine who died a few years ago. So we're walking around the house, and this guy says, "What? You've got a picture of Salvador Dali on your..." I said, "Well, no, that's Avatar Meher Baba." And he was a Christian. I mean, he was wearing a cross. And so, well, where did I go from here? He was a nice guy. And I said, well, Baba explained that the Christ comes again and again and again when we need that in various forms. The ones you mentioned were Zoroaster, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and Meher Baba. And then back in the front house, sitting, doing the bid and talking about things, we got into a little conversation about one of the facts that Meher Baba has stated so clearly was that the root of all religions are the same, that the idea of that love. And he said, yeah, living the life that you believe in is what's most important. I said, well, yeah, that's a Baba message. So I mean, it was a surprising little encounter and a quite pleasant one. And for me, these things are always different. I never know quite. Sometimes I'm just surprised, like I was with this one. Sometimes I'll run into somebody on a walk with my little dog and I'll just mention Baba's name. And that feels like the right thing to do at the time. Sometimes if the Mormons or the Seventh-day Adventists come to my door with a pamphlet, I will give them a copy of the universal message when I take theirs and say something silly like, well, I'll read yours if you'll read mine. So, but it always varies, and it sort of depends on the situation. So, Jay Baba.
Yeah, beautiful. So
We've got Tony.
I guess I figure it's a good time to jump in. I made a few notes. So, like first thing though is, the first thing is welcome back, Jeff. Good to see you.
Yeah.
About this, I usually my intention is to just be who I am, including with my relationship with Baba. So I neither push it nor hide it. And if I feel Baba's presence in something, well, implicitly, I'm kind of saying he's God, but I'm not necessarily saying he's God, I am myself. And the more closer I am with someone, the more I can be that. But today, and I always wear his picture. At a certain point in my life, I just started to always wear it. It's a different one, but lately I've been wearing this one. And today we were at a farmer's market, and a woman there, we were getting sheep cheese. And she said to me, I really love that picture. And she remembered me. I didn't remember her. Zeke remembered her. She said, I think it's just really wonderful, and it's wonderful that you wear that, and that, she said, I really like my name. And I even had the thought I might just get a thing to wear that has my name on it. And I said, what is your name? She said, Fatima. I said, well, it's a beautiful name. And I was going to say something about the prophet. But Zeke jumped in at that point because I knew this was possible, but Zeke picked it up for sure. She said, that's not his picture, meaning me. She said, it's not? And I said, who is it? I said, it's Meher Baba. And I said it clearly. That was my main thought. Into her ears. Let it be into her ears, because only Baba creates the relationship and reveals himself to a soul. Only Baba does that. So he said, let them hear my name. If they repeat it, so much the better. So, and the only hint of that at all, I said, he's a spiritual figure. And I said, it's like that, like Fatima, this is Meher Baba, like that caliber of neighborhood. Let's see. Saying his name clearly, okay. Only Baba introduces. Also, I'm always aware on some level that any person I'm meeting could be Baba. I've actually had the experience where I feel Baba on a number of occasions showed up as someone else and only let me know after he'd gone. But I'm always aware on some level that I'm talking to Baba. And if he wants me to talk about him, I'll talk about him. And if not, I just kind of go with the flow. The other thing is about Dolly. I've been wearing Baba's picture for decades now, not necessarily the same one. And at work, I'd wear it at the UN, and people would see me every day and not notice the photo. Until one day they'd notice it, and they would think they knew who it was. So some thought it was a picture of me or of my father, but there's a thing that Baba said that to each one, he said, being everywhere, I displace nothing. To each one, I appear to be what he thinks I am. And so what people would notice, to this day it happens, when they would notice the picture, it would say something about how they saw God, if you could just get the symbolic level of it. So a lot of musicians, I would hear, nice picture of David Crosby, or a nice picture of, who else? I think someone said Frank Zappa. For comedians, I thought he looked like Jerry Colonna, even though I knew it was Baba. The comedian, as someone said, my picture of Gallagher. And one fellow, an actor, we were backstage during a show, and he commented, I wasn't wearing it in costume, but we were rehearsing, and he was intrigued. Somebody is mic'd. I think it's you, Joe. Anyway, he said he was really intrigued by my photo, which he liked, of Ron Jeremy. Now, Ron Jeremy is a very famous porn star who is known to be well endowed. So, I could see people who saw Baba as a comedian, that God has a sense of humor, or the musician, God shares beauty. Somebody at the UN, an Arabic translator, thought he was this Lebanese singer of beautiful, beautiful love songs. And for Ron Jeremy, I said, it's kind of like Shiva Lingam. He is the primal power, So with him, I went cut to the chase. But anyway, so that's it. I vary just kind of based on how intuitively what I feel Baba wants me to say, but not to push anything, because nobody's going to make the connection but him. So
Good.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anyone else had any wild experiences of?
I'll jump in.
Yeah.
So this topic came up because I was talking with Jeff, and I said, when you are traveling around, you got in an airplane, you were coming out here for Baba-centric events, what would you say if somebody said, why are you going to LA? And I think that most people that I've talked to have the consensus of, I play it by ear. And I think it was you, Tony, who made the comment about, if they start to talk about something spirit, oh, maybe it was Bob. If they start saying anything spiritual, it raises the discourse. But one of the things that really touched me, I got to have so many great talks with Jeff. It was just, I keep unpacking it, but now I forgot what I was going to say. That I'm going to switch and maybe I'm going to remember that. The one thing that I really loved in your email, Jeff, was when you said it's our job to say his name, to put his name in people's ear. And then it's Baba's job to take it from ear to heart. And so that's why sometimes you can even just say Mer Baba, and hopefully it just hits their ear without even a conversation. And I have shared this, but this seems to be like a good topic time, is when I get the plethora of sales calls, I answer it, Jai Marababa. And when they start to talk, I say, I was hoping you'd call to talk about Avatar Mayor Baba. And usually you get a click, or somebody said, no, I've never heard of him. Somebody actually said that. I was totally not prepared for that. But one of the most important things for me was I stopped being pissed off when the phone rang every time. And I looked at it as an opportunity to say his name. And that opened my heart a lot. But it is unusual for me to, because I came from the human resource professional world, I always had to have boundaries. So certainly talking about religion and or spirituality was really hard. And so only like 1 or 2 people out of 150 in my company knew anything about Baba. So I think it's a matter of understanding that if somebody, because people walk in our house, there's 25, 30 pictures of Baba within sneezing distance, but nobody says anything. Who is that? And there's so many reasons why they might not. And so it's up for me. I know I only want to mainly bring it up if I see the avenue. Jai Baba, let's go to Ron. I got to have dinner with your wife last night.
Yeah, she said that.
I'm just going to pipe in here. Sometimes, if I were an international airport, you can't do it now, but I used to page Meher Baba, like at the London airport. So it'd go all over everything. They don't do that anymore, but you could. And if there were any Baba people, you could. I'd hang around the information desk just to see if someone showed up. But anyway, it went out.
They used to do that in Myrtle Beach, in the Myrtle Beach airport years ago.
Yeah. It's kind of fun. Or you can be in an elevator and just say, with other people and just say, oh, Mayor Baba. And nobody quite knows what you said, but the name goes out, Anyway, go ahead.
I have to say, I kind of play it by ear, because there's been so many things that I've tried, and sometimes they might work, sometimes they don't. So I decided not to come up with anything set. Not that there's anything wrong with that, especially, if you think that it suits you, it fits, that would be good. But for me, it's just been winging it. But I wanted to say another thing, which is I often will try to bring up something that leads to me saying something where Baba's name is included. Like I might mention, well, when I was in India, and then they might say, well, why did you go to India or something like that? And then I'll be able to mention, well, I went there because that's where Mayor Baba is, and I've been following Mayor Baba, something like that. But I like to be able to give Baba to somebody. And
giving his name is a great thing, but even, well, just about anything to connect with people, it seems to be something that Baba encourages me to do. But one thing, leading to the next thing that I want to say is, I find that it isn't all that infrequent that I say too much about Baba. Like if people start asking questions, I get carried away, and I just say way too much, and kind of, I think it overwhelms people, which isn't a good thing. I usually regret it, and Baba gives me the thumbs down. I'm not taking a shot. Anyhow, that's what I thought I would tell.
Good. Yeah. I know that place. Well, maybe I'll just say a couple of things in my own thing. I know, like when I first got into Baba, I was in Seattle, and I had this thought that, I mean, I should just tell people that, Jesus has come back or God is back on earth. I mean, because what if if they found out 20 years later that, Jeff, you should have told me that, you know what I mean? But that didn't work so well, it's still, but I kind of felt like, I shouldn't keep this, even if it's awkward and uncomfortable, at least let people know. But then I have like various stages of how I do this. If I'm like on an airplane or I'm traveling somewhere and I'm not going to see the person again, I'm a little bolder. I might say he's got in human form. Now, I'm not going to say that to a neighbor. That'll really get me in a bad way. But if it's, someone says, "Who's that?" and I'll just say, "That's Mayor Baba. He's said he'd been Jesus in the past and everything," because I'm not going to see them again. Now, if I'm going to see them again, someone kind of asks who Mayor Baba is. I go right to, not to who he is and his status. I go to, well, he advocates universal love, that we're all capable of loving, and he encourages us to cultivate our better angels, patience, kindness, love, forgiveness, and everything. So I go way off into that, because if I say he's God or he's a master, a spiritual master from India, I find that people just like that, they can't go anywhere with that. Some of them, but I can at least, talk a little bit about love. And if they don't go, if they somehow indicate a little more interest, I might say that he's like a spiritual master, and or he's, he was Pete Townsend's guru, whatever. I just got, just a little bit at a time, as long as I still feel they're with me. The moment they're kind of no longer with me, I kind of fold up my tent and take off. Now, but now the second topic, well, we haven't got onto the second topic of people disapproving of you and your life with Baba. I don't know if we should go there or well, I'll just say that I didn't run into that problem of people disapproving of me following Baba. My family didn't have a problem with it. They thought I was a little bit out there initially, but my behavior over time eventually convinced them that I was still had my marbles and still kind of normal enough. But actually, I felt more disapproval of my life with Baba from Baba lovers. People that disapproved of my way of loving and serving Baba. I mean, I had decades and decades where, and it was, I was initially hurt and it would bother me, but eventually Eventually, they helped me. They helped to deepen my life with Baba. I mean, I mean, many continue to disapprove of my life with Baba, but I got over that. It doesn't bother me. But like I say, it took me to a much deeper place with Baba, when what you're doing isn't being approved of, or just, they give you a rubber stamp. You have to kind of ponder, and it has brought me to a place that I'm quite happy, and I wouldn't have changed a thing. But like I say, it was my fellow Baba lovers that I felt the most disapproval of early on, and now I don't really give it much of a thought. I understand.
Jeff,
why.
do you have a single example of what they were disapproving of? Just to sing,
Oh.
it doesn't have to be that personal, but
Yeah. Well, like I felt from the Mandali, they connected with us, and they got to know who we are, and they were there like, like our favorite aunts and uncles, connected with us. And that when Kitty and Elizabeth were here, that was always, primary. But then things changed when Kitty and Elizabeth passed on, and Jane Haynes. It became a little bit more, do your work. Don't talk with the guests. Be friendly with the guests, but don't be personal with them. Where the physical work became much more primary than connecting. We're like brothers and sisters, and connecting in that way. Having your cabin nice and clean, someone they get that initial feeling, that was great. But if they don't get to know you, or have a friend here on the center that they can come see each time, it's, to me, that's the most important thing. I mean, Erich said to Danny Ladinsky, my buddy, we were embraced by him, and we have embraced you, and it's for you to go on embracing others. And in that way, Baba's love will go out to the world, embrace by embrace. And he described us as, you are like blind people. You're holding out coins, but you don't know the denomination. But, we are embracing, but we don't know the deeper implication. But I subscribe to that. Embrace by embrace, Baba's love goes out to the world, heart to heart. So that, does that make a little sense there, Ronnie?
oh yeah, no, I appreciate what you said.
Yeah.
In fact, regarding the embracing, I was mentioning, connecting with people, and of course, an embrace is a wonderful way to connect. But even somehow, if I have the opportunity to do it appropriately, just to pat somebody on the back, or do something where Baba would touch somebody, quite often he'd pat him on the back, or if it's a child, pat him on the cheek, or something, some kind of physical connection or verbal connection, smile, any of those things, I think passes Baba's love from his lover to another lover who may not realize they are, but just it's a blessing, I think. So I think it's a great thing, and I applaud you for sticking to your guns when it comes to the criticism you took for wanting to do something you really believed in at the center.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, it's I think, well, I'll tell you a story. Because I found that, and this came from Erich. The at the trust there on the back, there was a little veranda, and at 3:30, they would serve tea, and anybody that happened to be in the office would sit there and have tea with Erich. And the Westerners that were working at Mehrabad and the Easterners, they would kind of time their visits to to the city, to Ahmednagar, in such a way that they could stop by and have tea with Erich. So one day, Erich, I don't know if how many of you know Gary Kleiner. He might have been considered a slightly ne'er-do-well. I mean, he just kind of hung out. He wasn't like exactly a servant or a worker in the usual sense. But one day, there are these Westerners there, and Erich says, "What does Gary Kleiner do all day?" They said, "Erich, you want to know what Gary Kleiner does all day?" Yeah, what does Gary do? Well, he kind of collects the money for the Pilgrim's Day, and then after tea, he plays volleyball with at 4 o'clock, and but most of the time he just kind of hangs out with the pilgrims, just talking with the pilgrims. Eric says, "That's all that Gary Kleiner does?" He says, "Yeah, I'm afraid that's all he does." Good. That's the most important thing. I mean, that's Erich's right-hand man. Good. That's the most important thing. So, and I know a lot of these people, Heather told me this, and a lot of people thought they were doing the real stuff, doing their little bailiwick, doing their job. And here's this guy just screwing around. Anyway, it's a whole different world, folks. Okay, so much.
Okay, let's go to Richard.
I want to keep this really brief, but Jeff, you covered it all. But the one thing that I've been doing this sort of personal try to contact people for a long time in different ways, but recently I found some guy right downtown, this little town I live in, and I gave him some wheels for his car because I had these a long time. They only fit one kind of car, so I went searching for him. He was in the coffee shop with his girlfriend. So later, a day later, he came by to get these wheels, and so he was talking to me. He said, "Well, my girlfriend and I, we have some difficulties. We've been together 8-9 years, and things happen." And we just started talking. But I found that, so he kind of elevated it, and I went on just to try to be very grounded, no dancing around or anything, but just be very calm and grounded. But what I end up doing, which to me now makes the most sense, got serious enough to where I mentioned Meher Baba. But what I had to do is tell him that he himself was God in human form, and that Baba was the door to begin to experience that. And it sounds weird, but one of the things I think is truly missing from at least my consciousness in America is that people are really not truly aware that at the very core of that, original whim is who they are. But so the guy was really cool. He was really cool. He could really listen. Brian was his name, and I'll never see him again. But anyway, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, let's go to Suvel. Is that how you say your name, sir?
Yeah, Suvel.
Hi.
Hello. Yeah, so I've been a Baba follower for a few years now, but only like really seriously for like maybe the last 2. So I'm still kind of like new to this, like telling people about Baba or telling my family about Baba or friends about Baba. So this is a pretty interesting topic to hear about. I can relate to what Jeff was saying, like early on. There's times even today I'm like, I just want to go around and tell everyone, just like give them a big hug and be like, guys, everything's okay. Like I don't know, like very like spiritually, like woo-wee, whatever. But then obviously like I kind of come to my senses, and it's weird that we have this fear, like what are we afraid of? I can't really quite place what I'm afraid of, like what happened if I were to do something like that. But anyways, it is interesting to hear that other people also have that same kind of struggle or like have to play it by ear. Something I wanted to add. Oh, when I was on the center this past year, David told me that sometimes he tells people, like kind of how Anthony was saying, like he tries to meet people where they are. Like if they're like a Christian, he'll just talk to them about Christ, or kind of like leave them like not necessarily push Baba, but just kind of meet them where they are in terms of like spreading that message of love. Well, David shared that he heard someone tell him that it can be useful to say if someone asks like, who is Meher Baba? But you know that they're like a Christian, you could say like, oh, he lived a Christ-like life. Or similarly, like if it's someone that's like a Hare Krishna, you could say he lived a Krishna-like life. And I think that's a pretty like well put way of kind of avoiding saying that he is them if you're afraid of what that might lead to. But it's still very much true. Like he lived a life just full of love. And I just wanted to share that and
Yeah,
yeah, thank you.
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's go to Joe. Joe, can you unmute?
About that.
You're there. You're on. Good.
I have a story. Back in 1979, I was at the time of the 3 Mile Island nuclear accident. You remember that? I was living in Hershey and working in Harrisburg, and I was renting a farmhouse, and I was in the market for a wood stove. So I saw an ad in the local paper, wood stoves for sale. And so this Saturday, this guy came over and I wanted to buy a wood stove insert. And so I had a painting of Mayor Baba on my mantle by Linot. And so he comes in and he immediately took an interest in Baba. So he starts asking me all these questions. Who is that? And what are his teachings? And how did you find out about him? How long have you been a follower of this Mayor Baba, et cetera, et cetera? And so this went on for like, oh God, I don't know, 20 minutes of really intelligent questions and curious questions about Baba. And I'm telling him. And then I asked him what he did, what his work was. Do you sell these wood stoves full time? And he goes, no, I just do it on the side. I work at 3 Mile Island. He said, and I said, I've never met anyone who worked at a nuclear plant. So I started asking him questions, hopefully intelligent ones. And it turned out he worked in the control room of the 3 Mile Island. And he worked the night shift. So as it turned out, I asked him about what he did, on the night shift, and he basically monitored the status of the plant, of the nuclear reaction that was happening all the time. So I bought the wood stove, he put it in, and I gave him a universal message. And he took it and he put it in his pocket. And this was a Saturday, and it was, I think, 3 days later, on a Tuesday night, I think it was, on the night shift around 3:30 or 4 in the morning, had to be on his shift. This is when the accident happened. And so I'll never forget that. Somehow Baba got in there into this island, and I never talked to him again. But in my fantasy is that he 3 in the morning, a couple days later, he pulls out the universal message and he's looking at it and he puts it on the console, Baba's face, Baba's image, and then fell asleep. And then all the dials started going crazy on the whole thing started melting down. I don't know if that happened, but so, but the whole East Coast was on edge there for a few days while it looked like it was going to be a total meltdown. And somehow Baba got into the control room because of the man who was on duty, one of the 2 or 3 people on duty, had just heard about Mayor Baba and had the universal message in his pocket. So that's my story.
Yeah, Joe, you may have saved all of us, really.
I don't know. There's a play theme in there, Joe. Maybe you could talk to yourself about that.
Oh, wow, to play? Yeah, there may be. There may be. Thanks.
Let's go on to Tony.
Hi. It just occurred to me in the beginning, when I first heard of Bob, I recognized him right away. I'd been on a quest, but when it was introduced to me, I saw his picture, he just exploded, he was present. And so I was telling everyone, and it really took years. Even to this day, I'm not sure I've totally gotten over the expectation that everyone who sees him will immediately recognize him, because who else could he be? Just look at him. Obviously he's God. I told my mother when I got home, she was washing dishes, and I walked in, I said, you know, Christ that you've been going to church for every Sunday, I said, he's been here for the last 75 years. She said, oh, okay.
Calm down, Tony.
You know, she's heard a lot. So but so that's why I just wanted to share that. But the other thing, it was on 3 Mile Island, where I was at 3 Mile. I was in this group, this Society for Avatar Mayor Baba, which has become very strange, cultish. But they bought a house in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and we were going down that weekend. A bunch of us. And it was the weekend of 3 Mile Island. And everybody thought I was crazy, but we were going straight into where the meltdown was happening. And I thought, Baba's got this, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if I think Baba wants me to stay in New York now.
Yeah, just stay away from the nuclear plants. Don't press your luck. Hey, does anybody have any stories about how their family, you know, disapproved of them, and they had to suffer that, being kind of alienated in telling their parents or some of their friends, any of that type of story? What? Everybody kind of...
No, Richard raised his hand.
I have kind of a worst case scenario story, but remember, everyone, remember my character and my karma coming into this incarnation. So as I tell this story, I'm not guilt-free of any, you know, dysfunction. But so I got a transfer to a job in a different location where I live now. And there was only one mechanic that I had to work with on swing shift. And he was what I call a four-square Christian. And I mean, this is very rigid, death and damnation, hell. He told me once himself that Halloween was the scariest day of the year for him because he thought there were ghouls and ghosts everywhere, you know, and it was about evil and God and the devil and all this stuff. But anyway, so I was there about 2 weeks, and one night at lunch, he said, "Do you believe in God?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I've been following this guy named Meher Baba for a long time." And after that, it took me a while to realize it. I became part of the devil's clan. And that was a situation that led down basically a really unhappy road for me. I mean, it was all Baba's will, I guess, and all this, but he would try to proselytize me while we were together in a truck and we were working at night and with Christianity. And I just didn't talk about Bob anymore. But so, I mean, that's a whole different situation. But yeah, he had a major reaction. Not a fun one for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's... Hey, I see Deneen there. I'm just curious, you know, you've come to Baba more recently, and you had at some point to tell them why you keep coming over to this place that's right nearby, the Mayor Spiritual Center. How have you, what have you kind of said to your parents, or what have they said about this place? What have they questioned it much, or have you kind of avoided the issue, or how have you dealt with it? 'Cause it's fresh. It should be somewhat...
It's kind of been a mixture. I started visiting and they didn't ask me a lot of questions. They just said, "Oh, you're going over there," kind of thing. And I was in the Christmas choir, and my father wanted to come to the choir.
To the performance at the center itself. Yeah.
Yes. Just because it was the holiday and everything, and he likes music. So I had to coordinate with Barbara Plews for my father to come. And we sang a song, which I'm trying to remember. It was like Zoroaster, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, May, Baba, and it's like a kind of a round, and we say that. And afterward, my father said, they made them all equal. They made them all equal, and I honestly didn't know what to do. I come from a Catholic family, and so I had to be really careful. So I said, that is a belief that is held, that they're this, they're equal and the same, and you don't have to believe that. That's all I said. That's a belief that is held in this community. And that was because I knew it would just be fire, and I didn't want anyone challenging me about going there. And at the time, I was renting from my own family, so I had to be careful because I didn't want to be have any difficulty while I lived there, that because this was where I was going regularly. And that was the only thing he said about that. And then I was in the play. I was in a play that circled around Mayor Baba's accident, The Trail of Tears, which was just released, I don't know, a few weeks ago. And, that one, I mean, I had a major role in that, and I didn't know how to handle that. So I just said, if, I'll give you the recording so you can watch it. And before I had them watch the play, the main character in that play meets Mayor Baba. For those of you who haven't seen it, meets Mayor Baba when she's young, and later again in her later life. And I wanted to prepare my parents for seeing it. I didn't have them come to the actual play because I didn't know what their reaction would be. So I had them watch the film. But I said to them in preparation, I said, imagine this character is meeting Mayor Baba. So just imagine this character's meeting Jesus Christ. This character's having an experience of meeting Jesus, because that's who they relate to, So I said, this character, imagine they're meeting that person. And that's how significant this meeting is for this character, meeting God. And that's how I left it. Very loose, very, and they enjoyed the play. So I haven't really gotten into any more than that. And they haven't really asked me anything else. And they don't tell me not to go. They never told me not to go or anything, but and they don't ask me any questions. They ask me nothing.
Yeah, that's often the case where the parents or friends just won't ask. They just don't.
Yeah.
I mean, that often happens.
Yeah, I was surprised they wanted to see the play, to be honest.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure they would even ask to see that. But
Yeah, I wish they could have.
I had spent so much time on it. I think they felt like it was only right to ask to see the play.
Yeah. Well, you did. She did a beautiful job, and I wish they could have seen it live because it was very powerful. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Janine, it's something that we can go to the center website and see?
Yes, it is listed on the videos. Yeah, the play it's called The Trail of Tears, and it centers around Mayor Baba's accident in Prague. And the character has a universal story that we've all familiar with, really, in one way or another. But it's accessible on the site.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go to Ron.
I thought of a situation. It was pretty profound situation. My wife and I even before we were married, we used to travel from the San Francisco Bay Area to the LA Sahavas, which would, they were almost always at this Pilgrim Pines location, a Christian camping place. And then our kids were born and we took them, and we used to, so we went every time, and almost every time we stopped along the way in Pasadena, and my cousins, who were maybe about 12 years older than me, married couple, they were very generous to put us up for the night. Then we just had a, like a short hour-and-a-half ride from their house into to the Sahavas. Anyhow, we used to do that. Now, why I bring it up is they knew where we were going. I mean, obviously we were going to the Sahavas, so we told them we were going to Sahavas about Mayor Baba, but they didn't ask us about Mayor Baba. In fact, if I ever mentioned anything in a conversation that had anything to do with God or spirituality, and my the man who was a history professor at Cal State LA, I think, he would change the subject right away, forcibly change the subject. He just did not want to hear about anything having to do with God or spirituality. And so this went on for years. We stopped there for 25, maybe even almost 30 years. And then one time, probably the last time we were there, we didn't know it was the last time we were going to be there, but one morning I mentioned something that Mayor Baba had said that I had just read or something to my my cousin, who was the woman. I mentioned something and she got a little irritated about it. Like she didn't really want to be hearing something like that. And so I didn't say anything. But then her husband Gene walks in, and we were just finishing up this little conflict, I guess, that we were having. And when Gene heard it, he finally was very straightforward, and he got perturbed, maybe angry. I can't remember exactly, but because he was an atheist, complete atheist, and he used to go to his synagogue, which at one time he was the president of the synagogue. That didn't have anything to do with religion, actually, but he would go to their Bible classes and tell them they were all fools or something. He was like that kind of intensity. So I had to say, I felt like I needed to say something, and the thing that came to me to say to Gene was, I respect that you don't believe that there's a God. I respect that, because I take it that is your experience. So you should, it's appropriate and honest and sincere to live in accord with your own experience. And after I said that, then I said, and that's the reason why I follow God and trust that there is a God, because that's my experience. We just have different experiences. And he didn't say anything, and he did follow up on it. I think it may have rung a bell. But anyhow, I never got to see him again. He died not that long after that. But I liked what came out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Not every time, but that time it seemed to work.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, now there's the playwright now.
Yeah, let's go to Joe.
All right, thank you. Actually, that play, Trail of Tears, it's in the Center newsletter. That's the only place you can find it. It's about a couple issues ago, one of the monthly newsletter that comes out, and there's videos of the monthly, but it's in there. But my mother hated Mayor Baba. When I lived at home for about 1.5 years after I came to Baba and had "Don't Worry, Be Happy" poster on the wall, and she was really gave him a lot of anger and a lot of emotional intensity in her dislike for him. And I kind of liked that because I knew she was thinking about him. And she insulted him, called him all kinds of names, and Baba got to her somehow. He got to her and made her really, really, really upset. And what I wanted to tell her, but I couldn't, was, I found out about Baba in Berkeley, 69. And before Baba, I was starting to use LSD and was enjoying it. And I was even thinking about going and joining a commune and continuing to take it. And when I found out that Baba said no drugs, I stopped immediately. And I wanted to say to my mother, Mayor Baba saved your son. You should be really grateful to him for saving him from destroying his brain or whatever. And my father was a bit more neutral. He used to say, well, Mayor Baba, he's not the God man, but he's a good man. Okay, so he got that far. But I used to really enjoy my mother's intense negative reactions towards Baba, and I think she lived to almost 105, and I think she will come to Baba in her next lifetime.
Yeah, beautiful.
Let's go to Emmy. Hi, Emmy.
Hi. I really appreciate this topic. My mom asked me when Anthony and I were engaged, she wanted to decorate the room that we were going to have the celebration in with quotes about love. And she knows Anthony's really into spirituality. And she said, what are some of Anthony's favorite spiritual quotes about love? And so we had just gone to the center, and somebody had made this box that had like 100 quotes from Meher Baba, all about love. And it was like this handmade, beautiful box with all these Meher Baba love quotes. And so I was like, I have a whole box of love spiritual quotes. And so from that box, I typed them all up and sent them to her, and she formatted them and she printed them out. We have them kind of all over our house. We have them in like every room. Like this one says, the smallest thing is as big as the biggest, and the biggest thing is as small as the smallest, Meher Baba. And the one in our bedroom is about to speak lovingly, think lovingly, and act lovingly toward all mankind, irrespective of caste, creed, and position, taking God to be present in each and every one. So these quotes were all over the room when we got married. And so, and then my mom knows that every year for our anniversary, we go to the Meher Baba Center. And so it's like we just call it like the spiritual center. And it's always been part of my life to be spiritually oriented. And so we're just going to the spiritual center. And I always mention, remember all those quotes that you put all around our wedding? We're going to the center from the person who had all those beautiful quotes. And so it's just like this very kind of, I'm so grateful that it's somehow been like a very fluid and seamless, like, appreciation of how Meher Baba embodies love, and that's the spiritual guide that's really important in our lives. So
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like, without kind of getting to the status of who he is, you just go with what's most prominent and easy to relate to, which is Baba's love and his advocating love.
So I'm going to myself again.
Yeah.
I have two things, two themes. One is it's kind of like the coming out process that I personally had as a lesbian, except for I definitely am committed to coming out to as many people as I can. And that's a political statement for me. And it is totally true to my heart. Whereas talking about Baba feels very personal to me and something I have a sister-in-law who's always been very spiritual. When we first met her, she had gone from Hare Krishna to goddess, and we were simpatico with the goddess. And so we've all been on a spiritual adventure. And we came to Baba back in 2012, and she came to someone who is, it's not, how would you even discuss it? It's spirituality, it's meditation, it's this husband and wife couple from India. And she was so excited about it. It had changed her life in so many ways. She couldn't help but continue to invite us to events. And we said no every single time. And finally Terry wrote to her. Can you say what you said?
Yes.
Sorry.
I wrote to her that I was so happy that she found what she needed for her spirit, and so happy that Diane and I found what we needed for our spirit. And she never
talked about
it again. It was that simple, really. Because I think people want you, like we feel about Baba, we want people to get Baba so that they can have what we have. But realistically speaking, everybody has to find their God in the way that they need to find it. And it's so personal. Like when I was working and patients would say to me, you know, what's going on with you? I would call the center that you just went to, Jeff, in LA. I would just call it my spirit center, you know, and if they ask questions, I would answer them because I can't be dishonest. It doesn't work for me. So, and I think I told this story once about a woman who came into my office, and it was the first time I was seeing her. And she was with a walker. She had had a stroke. And she told me that I can't move well, but I hear fine, you know, meaning that like I was talking loud. So I said, I think I'm just talking loud, but I'll try to pipe down. And then we became friends, you know, like we got each other. And one day she came in and she said to me, I hear you're going to India. How come? And I said, well, there's like an ashram kind of spirit center there that I really want to visit. She said, well, like what? And she just kept asking me. And finally, you know, I told her, and the woman got white. She turned white. I was going to go for oxygen. I was so scared. And it ends up that her husband had died 6 years prior. And she committed to him that she would put a "Don't worry, be happy" Baba card on every chair of the people who came to the funeral. And she has his, an urn by her bed with his ashes, and the Baba card is attached to the urn above it. And she said to me that she hadn't heard of Baba, you know, Mayor Baba, since her husband died. And she's just was so excited to tell her children that she met a Baba person, and you know there are other Baba lovers, kind of thing. And so you never know when it's going to happen, you know, and you just, you know, you keep it as open as you can, unless you feel like, you know, there's a road in, and then of course if there is, you take the road in. Why not?
And then real quickly, there was a woman that we met on a flight, a connecting flight. And so we were having a meal with her in between our flights. And she said something that was kind of personal. And Terry said, well, we have a large spiritual life. And she said, really, what's that all about? And Terry said, well, have you ever heard of Mayor Baba? And she said, well, I know he's the avatar. And it just, I mean, so what a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift for all of us. Okay, let's go to Marta.
Go here. Go here. What do you tell people when they ask you who Mayor Baba is?
Why did I
Hi, go here. why did I know instinctively you were going to ask that? But you know me. I do. Lovely to see all of you again. Yeah, so of course this has happened over and over many times in many different ways, and I respond in many different ways because, you know, as Baba says, you have to first discern where the person, I mean, who your audience is, and sometimes if you jump in too rapidly, then you take the risk of pushing that person further back. So you have to kind of wait and see where they're coming from. And if the interest is there, if they are asking, I see what the response is. So for instance, sometimes it'll be somebody just looking at my Baba ring that I wear, you know, and, oh, who's that? Is that your grandfather? And I go from there and I start on telling them who Baba is. And then I wait to see what their reaction is before I proceed, you know, go further. And if the interest is there, of course, I will go ahead and tell them everything that I, you know, can personally share. So it depends. You have to kind of discern who the person is and take it from. And so I resonate with a lot of what everybody said so far. And but as long as you get Baba's name across to them, that's the most important thing. So as Jeff says, from the ear to the heart is his work. And so ours is just to get his name across. But I've dealt with it in many different ways. Once somebody asked me, we were at home here and there was a big party going on, and they looked at Baba's picture, the ancient one, you know, picture, and you know, wanted to know who that was. And I said, he is that who provokes the question within you. And because I knew, you did say that.
Yes, I did. Yes, I've said that many times. But again, you know, knowing who the person that's asking the question, I felt that was the appropriate response to that. And so I went with that. And that was, you know, it set him thinking. It set him, it was thought provoking to him. And so we went further than that after a while. So it all depends on who your audience is. You know, I live in the deep South here in Florida, and a lot of people around are totally committed to Christianity and Catholicism and all that. So no matter, I mean, and there's some of them are dear friends of ours over here, but they only go so far. I mean, once one of them has out and out told me that, you know, Jesus is all I have, and that's, you know, as far as I go, kind of thing. And so that's it. That's their belief. They are, I mean, that's their truth. Not everybody's truth is what we believe as Baba lovers. So you have to go with how it, you know, who the person is and what their background is and what their interest is in knowing Baba. So I hope that answers. I don't know.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Goher.
Sure.
It's kind of getting late. You want to just go to Deneen and then do some final thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
unless something else comes up, but yeah, go ahead, Deneen.
I just wanted to mention real quick that when I was preparing for the play, I work at in retail, and I had someone find out I was going to be in a play at work. So I'm in a work environment, and I didn't know what her belief was. And she's asking me, she says, I want to come to see you. And I got all nervous because I'm like, how do I explain this? And, you know, can I even have her come, and what would she think? And, you know, what are her beliefs? And very confusing. So I just said, you know, I don't know if you'd be comfortable. You know, I said, it's related to a spiritual center. And she's like, well, what is it about? And I said, it's related to Baba. And what I was able to bring forth was that there was this, the way I described it is there's this very compelling idea of all of us following a one God instead of all following different gods all throughout the world. And I said, what's really interesting is how, and I didn't know this, I said, I didn't really realize this, that the different prophets or gods that came to the world came every 700 to 1400 years. And I kind of went along that idea that I never realized that was the case in history, and that wouldn't it be really neat if we were all following the same God and he was just born in different parts of the world for each of us, and we could have been born anywhere, and we could have been following any faith but following the one God. And this has been happening every 700 to 1400 years. And how exciting is that? It's a really compelling idea, even just to consider. And that's how I talked to her about it. And we had a very open conversation about that whole concept of just that God could be reborn, and Jesus was one of them. And that was an interesting way to talk about it also.
Yeah. As
Because
a,
it is a really compelling idea. I had never heard of that before, and I didn't really realize it. And it just tied everything together for me, when I heard that. So I just used that, what I had learned.
yeah, a lot of people have felt that suddenly all made sense.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that the idea that these divine beings come from time to time, or as
And from all different places. Yeah.
Francis Brabazon said, the lovely occasions of God
Yeah.
in our world.
Oh, okay, Tony, you want to land the plane?
Okay. Yeah, it's just about saying his name, and that if it goes into their ears, he takes it to their heart. And after reading Jeff's note, I suddenly thought about two friends of mine. One of them, we were in some community theater, a production of Rebecca, and later he was directing Shakespeare in Hollywood in some other theater, and I wound up playing Max Reinhardt, who was very close to Narina, and I got to play him in this kind of comedy thing by Ken Ludwig. And so he knew I was excited about it also because of Baba. And he and then his girlfriend, who became his significant other, and they're still very close. I witnessed, they just knew Baba through me. We didn't talk about Baba, just my experience. But then I noticed, in retrospect, their spirituality started to flourish. And one time we went with them, they invited us to go to hear Krishna Das sing. And I'm suddenly seeing how Baba's name has been working inside them to open their spirituality without reference to his name at this time, So we don't know. We really don't know. As long as we do that little bit, he's got the rest of it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a final quote to read? Hey,
I have one, Jeff.
Okay.
Okay. It's about spirituality. So Baba says, about spirituality, Baba states, it is better to study it than to be ignorant of it. Better to feel it than to study it. Better to experience it than to feel it. And best of all, to become it. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba.
Let's have a few moments of silence. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Hey, Baba.
Yeah, just a second here. I lost all of you. Just a second. Oh, there you are. Any last moment things or any something on a different subject altogether? And now you guys better be able to go out there and, really make some converts. No, it's amazing how slow. I mean, it's even saints that came to see Baba and wanted and recognized him, and they say, "Well, I'll bring all my disciples, and we can, you know, uh, let people know all about you and everything like that." And Baba said, "No, just go back and do what you were doing previously." So Baba seems to a great many figures that recognize Baba, like Muktananda or Gandhi or a great many people recognize Baba, but Baba just encouraged Shivananda, just just he had them just go on with their teachings, and it seems that Baba wants it to go from heart to heart and not get on Time magazine or halftime at the Super Bowl game or anything like that. Just kind of keep it just going heart to heart slowly, and that's a very solid basis for all of this. Yeah. Any last comments?
One little thing.
Yeah.
Totally off subject, but I just learned it watching a video on Baba Zoom with Owen Cooper. That Kitty Day, we know that she played the piano. That's what she did, but before she came to Baba. But apparently, her music teacher and her piano teacher was Gustav Holst. If any of you know, he was one of the most noted composers of the last century, and he did an amazing piece called "The Planets." And Kitty never, to my knowledge, talked about her life with the piano or her musical life, but she was studying with one of the most noted people of the past century.
Yeah. And her aunt, I think, was Florence Nightingale, or one of her relatives was Florence Nightingale. Oh, well, while I'm thinking of it, this coming Wednesday at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, Stu Baker's going to lead a heart-centered meditation, and it's really in Baba. It's a really beautiful short meditation, but if you're, if you find your energies kind of dispersing in different directions, this will bring it all back into a one-pointedness. Well worth it, but that's that. It's on the same, you can get it on Baba Zoom, but it's at 7 o'clock. Goes for, about 20 minutes or a half hour, but if you do, I'll meet you there. Yeah, it's wonderful. Anyway, anything else? Any last?
Okay, Richard, we're trying to get out of here.
Yes, this is very short. It's a 5-line prayer, but I've been practicing my skills at the 9 p.m. arti over a while, and so I've written a few things, and so here it is. So this is, O fire of God, O great power of Izod, carry us with you, create our longing, so the ash of our being becomes your fire of love.
Wow, and that's that you came up with that.
Yeah,
Oh my God, you're getting
whoa
poetic over there in Grand Junction. That's
yeah.
incredible. Okay, anyway, much love. Great. Thank you for sharing, and it gives you some a wide range of things to do to convey Baba to others and all the varying degrees and ways of doing it. Yeah. Anyway, much love, and You guys all have a good life, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Baba.
Jeff.
Same to
Hey,
you.
Baba.
Thank
you, Jeff. Thank Again, you. welcome.
Yeah.
welcome back.
Oh, wait just a second.
Nasreen.
Nasreen, we can't go until we.
I am back. Yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. Jai Baba. Thank you. Thank you.
Let me tell you, I was just at Nasreen and Mahmoud's place. They have a magnificent place in the southern part of Los Angeles, on a kind of a low mountain, kind of a high mountain overlooking the ocean. It's a
Wow.
magnificent,
Wow.
almost on a cliff. And, the number of the Mandalay been there, Alaba and Katie and Henry Kashadi. But this place is really beautiful. And their whole family were so welcoming. So if you go to Los Angeles, there might be a little meeting there. We had a beautiful meeting there.
Thanks, I am and Glenn on that one.
Yeah, they were there. Oh, there they are too, over the far right. That's Piam and Glenn. But
Thank you.
they
Thank
have
you.
a beautiful. And anyway, much love again. See you. I hope maybe I'll see some of you on Wednesday. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.